Hello, my name is Chris Parham, and this is my final project for the DMI, the Design Seminar for Mass College of Art 2021. And my final research project is called Film versus Mobile Journalism as Camera Phones. How the camera phone became the new mobile journalism tool in filming social justice protests and police brutality in America. But first, we want to start off with the 1960s in terms of news organizations and how they operated. And a lot of the news organizations back then operated with the newsrooms were primarily male and white, and also the news back then in the early 1960s, a lot of the reporters, of course, called in from the field, that is, in terms of getting in stories and so on. And so, for instance, with the 1963 civil rights demonstration, as you can see with this film, this particular picture, which was taken during the early 1960s of the civil rights demonstrations that were happening frequently in Birmingham, Alabama, and throughout the South. And again, my project deals with analog film from the 60s to digital camera phones today, capturing social justice protests and police killings. And the future of journalism is mobile. And as you can see to your left, it's a 1960s anti-war protest in New York City. And to your right, you're seeing a 2020 anti-war protest in Washington, D.C. And again, when I say the future of journalism is mobile, that basically means that with today's camera phones, people are able to capture all kinds of images and so on through their camera phones. And again, with journalism being back then in the 60s, very, not so much antiquated, but just very new to a lot of people in terms of getting the word out in terms of the what was happening in the 60s and so on. And the 60s began with peaceful protests for civil rights and the anti-war movement. Then things got ugly going into the 1970s and beyond. And again, newspapers, again, got their stories from reporters in the 60s, from calls to the editor or the wire, meaning the Associated Press or other news organizations, compared to today with social media and the internet. And with mobile journalism, all you need is a smartphone, a laptop, and a digital recorder to get the news out there in terms of protests. And again, this, for instance, is a picture of the 1963 funeral for the girls killed at the 16th Street Baptist Church. And they really got the news out there in terms of everything, of course, being in black and white. But they really got the news out there through their reporters on the field and so on. And what we're looking at right now is we're going to go through a quick kind of timeline, basically, of important events that happened in the 70s and the 80s and the 90s. And of course, to your left, you're seeing the iconic photo of the Kent State Massacre. And then below that, active protests in the 80s. And then below that is the LA Uprising, which happened in 1992. And of course, these were very iconic photographs and images taken back then. And also, too, we're looking at, for instance, with this next slide, where analog film slowly being replaced by digital technology in the late 1980s. And George Holliday, who filmed the Rodney King beating in LA in 1991. And also the smartphones that captured the horrors of September 11, 2001. And again, smartphones were really starting to be used after, of course, September 11th and before that as well, because people were able to use their phones for basically anything, especially something as horrifying as that. And what we have here is we have three people who filmed three of the most heart-wrenching situations where, for instance, Ramsey Orta filmed Eric Gardner filming, being choked to death screaming, "I can't breathe." Feden Santana used his smartphone to film Walter Scott's murder in North Carolina in 2015. And then Darnella Fraser videotaped the murder of George Floyd in 2020, and it did shock the world. And what we're looking at here is the basis for my argument, which is mobile journalism. And mobile journalism is the thing that's happening now with companies getting out there talking about what is mobile journalism, the benefits of it, and smartphones versus traditional news equipment. And smartphones, again, this is being taken, this is a business now where smartphones are being used to report report the news, And going back, when I talk about the 1960s compared to now, where the photojournalism and mobile journalism, that is a thing now where people, it's a business, people are using it. And also, too, it really, for most people, a lot of the mobile journalists are either freelancers or they work for companies, they work for the agencies and newspapers as staff writers and workers in general. And also, what kind of led up to mobile journalism is the constant brutalization of Black people on somebody's smartphone, camera, or tablet. And as you can see at the top, the pictures at the top where there's various Black Lives Matter protests nationwide. And as you can see, everybody's got a smartphone and everyone's taking pictures with their smartphones as well. And as you can see at the bottom as well, where smartphone footage was done with Jacob Blake, Walter Scott, Sandra Bland, and also Derek Chauvin, who murdered George Floyd. And this is what I mean about the future of journalism, which is mobile, and also too, people are really getting out there and using their phones, especially at the protests that are happening right now, because these things need to be documented. And that's what's happening right now. And that's how, for instance, Darnella Frazier was able to get her film out there of George Floyd because it was just so shocking to see something like that happening on live TV, excuse me, on a phone. And the first portable camera used by reporters was the Leica 35 millimeter camera made in 1913. And this is considered the first mobile journalism tool for reporters. And as you can see to your left, it's a really old phone made in Germany. Reporters used it. It was on the go, basically. And to your right, you can see Eric Gardner, who screamed repeatedly, filmed by smartphone camera by Ramsey Orta, I Can't Breathe. And also at the bottom too, where you're seeing various instances of police brutality caught on a smartphone camera in the past 10 years. And as you can see, these guys, a lot of them either didn't know they were being filmed or just were being filmed. They didn't care, personally speaking. And here we're looking at stock photographs of mobile journalists worldwide. And for instance, to your left, you're seeing the evolution of a mobile journalist. And in the center, you're seeing Philip Kahn, who created the first camera phone in 1997 and wirelessly sent the first pictures of his daughter to his friends worldwide. So now we do know, we have a pretty good idea of where the camera phone came from. And also to your right, you're seeing Stephen Mann is a Canadian engineer and inventor known for wearing wearable computers and computational photography. And he plays a role in what's going on in terms of the camera phone as well. And these are the parts that are in a Mojo starter kit for mobile journalism reporters. Cord, the phone itself, a tablet, the microphone, the backpack with all your equipment, your stand, your TV, excuse me, your stand for your phone as well. So as you can see, there is clearly a market for mobile journalism, and it's out there, and and a lot of people are doing it, and especially a lot of people who are trying to, for instance, getting on like YouTube and talking about different things that they do and how they record these things and so on. And accessories like a tripod, external microphone, power bank, and an external light will give you the best results as a mobile journalist. So as you can see, there's clearly a market for mobile journalism, and the future right now is mobile journalism because um, the newspapers are kind of not, some companies, some newspapers are dying out in terms of print and so on and so forth. So the only thing they can do is deal with the internet because that's where everything is at right now in terms of what people are looking at, how people are taking in the news, how the internet has basically changed how we look at the news and um, how we, how people photograph the news as well. So mobile journalism, again, is the future of journalism right now because it's easy, it's lightweight. You don't need a lot of equipment. You don't need a lot of expenses, basically. Well, I mean, you do, but not really in terms of what you're looking at in terms of film, so on and so forth. And these are my resources as well. And I looked at a lot of resources in terms of mobile journalism, police brutality, the history of newspapers, and so on. And again, this is my project. My name is Chris Parham, Film versus Mobile Journalism as Camera Phones. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.